There's a quote that says, "Accept responsibility for your life. Know that it is you who will get you where you want to go. No one else." That quote reminds me of when it used to be 3 p.m. and suddenly my eyes were getting heavy. Brain fog starts to roll in, and now I have like zero motivation to get through the workday. I know there's folks that can relate, and most of us would just assume we're tired or that we didn't get enough sleep last night. Actually, we are tired. We're paying bills, we're thinking about our future, we're parenting, we're adulting. Exhaustion to a degree is inevitable, but that's not what we're talking about here. So anyway, we reach for the coffee, right? Or something sweet, just to help get us through the afternoon. But I'm learning that the afternoon crash doesn't always have to do with sleep or not getting enough of it. Often it's a quiet deficiency that affects like 95% of us. Fiber. Therefore, I wanted to take you through some meals that I make that will completely change your life. Basically, squash the deficiency pretty effortlessly. That felt weird after saying say those words, back to back, fast. Deficiency effortlessly. Deficiency effortlessly. Deficiency effortlessly. More importantly, we're going to talk a little bit about fiber and how it's a secret weapon for not only staying focused and feeling good all day, but also it's the key to longevity. This brings us to our first meal: roasted sweet potato and citrus Moroccan couscous salad. This meal here is incredibly simple and a meal prep dream. It's one of those meals that taste better after sitting in the fridge for a day or two. We're gonna start with our sweet potatoes. Don't forget to give them a good scrub, but from there, we're simply just gonna cut them into cubes. The nice thing is, you don't even have to peel them. And honestly, you don't want to. You could season the cubes on a baking sheet or inside of a bowl prior to dumping them onto the baking sheet. I'm using things like cumin, smoked paprika, pinch of nutmeg, going for a flavor combination that I don't normally have. Once I'm finished, I get that baking tray over to the oven at about 400 to 425 degrees, and I let them roast just until the edges get beautifully caramelized and charred. It's something about that smoky sweetness that kind of anchors this recipe. While the sweet potatoes are roasting, let's pull our pearl couscous together. And if you don't have couscous, don't worry about it. You could do something like orzo as a substitute, or as a gluten-free substitute, I would say even quinoa. But if you are deciding to use pearl couscous or even the orzo, I got a brief chef tip for you. Before adding any water in, add in your dry couscous with like a splash of olive oil. You're gonna let that toast for maybe like 2 minutes or so. And it smells slightly nutty, but the flavor depth is phenomenal. Then, instead of plain water, use vegetable stock. Basically, 2 zero-effort ways to inject massive flavor. Both items cooked, cooled. Now, we're gonna build our texture playground in a, massive salad bowl. I'm doing chopped dates, some briny olives, toasted pistachios. I absolutely love this flavor combination because it hits every single profile. You got the earthy roasted sweet potatoes, the sweetness from the dates, the salty brine off the olives, and little hits of crunch from those pistachios. This bowl is just like a pop, a lock. It's just a dance in your mouth. I know you feel what I'm saying, but that did sound a little weird. The big question, how do we tie this all together? With a vibrant dressing, of course. No store-bought stuff, just whisk together orange juice, lemon juice, about a spoonful of harissa paste, drizzle some maple, a touch of garlic, and a pinch of salt. That sounds like when my mom tries to teach me how to make a recipe. She's like, I do a little of this and a little of that, and I'm like, I need measurements. Pour the dressing all over the salad. Give it a toss. We have our meal. Now here's the science. The sweet potatoes, the chickpeas, and the dates are packed with what's known as prebiotic fiber. Without all the science, these 3 items are helping feed the good bacteria in your gut. There is a massive direct connection between your digestion and your brain. In other words, when the belly's happy, the head's happy. Prior to my current understanding of fiber, when I first heard the word, I thought of cereal that tastes like cardboard. I think it's borderline criminal how poorly marketed fiber is. But as soon as you start to look into it, you start to realize fiber is super important for us. I read something about it serves as your body's natural energy regulator. Who would have knew? Let me break down what I learned, dropping all the sciencey stuff because that can feel overwhelming. So let me read a note that I wrote down. When you eat refined, low fiber foods, your body burns through them instantly. Your blood sugar spikes, you get a quick rush of energy, and then inevitably you crash. Since your body actually doesn't digest it, the fiber hangs around to slow down the absorption of sugar and carbs, which is just another name for sugar. Your gut becomes that steady, sustained steam engine. I think of the difference such as like throwing gasoline on a fire or feeding a, slow burning wood log to a flame. But the question is like, how much should you be eating? Now, I remember from looking up official guidelines, they tell you that women should have something like 25 grams of fiber per day, while men are like upwards of 38. But I'm no doctor nor a fiber expert, so make sure you look it up. But what I can say is if you're starting from a typical diet, those numbers can feel a bit overwhelming. Because I mean, like, outside of an apple, I'm gonna go ahead and say a lot of us probably don't know exactly where we get our fiber at in a day. So if you're just starting the journey, how about instead of looking at such a massive number, we could look at something a bit more round, a little bit more whole, something like 20 to 30 grams of fiber per day, just to start. And honestly, I would say even smaller of a goal if you're not even eating your apples or any, basic produce in your diet very often, whole foods in general. Reachable goals, right? Like we can increase from there. All jokes aside, you will see a massive change in your body when you start getting, more fiber into the diet. With that being said, now, if you need a meal that feels like pure comfort, a little easy to lean into, this one's it. Creamy, zesty butter beans. I know, some people are skeptical about eating beans. If you grew up eating chalky, unseasoned canned beans, I don't blame you. But butter beans are the ultimate getaway bean. I mean, they're giant, they're velvety, and have this natural creamy texture, almost baked potato-like that melts in your mouth. Plus, a single cup of these bad boys are like 16 grams of fiber. Yeah, 16 grams of fiber in a cup. If your goal was 10 or 15 grams of fiber, you're done for the day. If it was 30 grams of fiber, you ate one meal and you're almost there. And if you're watching your sodium, get the no sodium cans. I mean, what are we talking about? I'm serious, but we kind of just made getting fiber a joke. Now, let's make it taste good. So I like to get this bean recipe going with an onion as its base. Quick preheat of the skillet, splash of olive oil, and in goes the onions until translucent. Next up is our garlic. And if you're a civilized human, do not use less than 4. Teen is what I really want to say. Stir that in for about 30 seconds, just until it starts to smell incredible. In our next step, we're gonna build some depth, bloom our spices, and make sure these beans are far from unseasoned. I'll add my seasoning blend right on the screen for you. This way, you know exactly the direction we're going. And to make sure we don't lose any of our flavor in the skillet, add a splash of vegetable broth to deglaze the skillet, using your spatula to scrape it all up and incorporate it right back into the dish. Once it's cleared off, I'm going in with some full-fat coconut milk and giving it a good stir before adding in those beans. As we're watching this, I'm gonna show you a quick trick I like to do with this bean recipe. And honestly, it works amongst most bean recipes. To thicken things up, we don't have to use any cornstarch or flour or anything like that. Here, I'm simply gonna mash a few of those butter beans with the back of a fork, or a spatula works too. The beans are gonna release their natural starches into the liquid, and those starches marry the healthy fats from the coconut milk and the broth, instantly turn this thing from watery to thick and glossy, like a gravy that just clings. Right before it's done, I like to add in some greens. You can go spinach, here I went kale. Either one works seamlessly. I pull it off the heat, I add my lemon zest, my lemon juice, and serve right over some warm rice and a little chili oil. And no, I did not forget my red pickle onions. Listen, 25 minutes will have you feeling like it's a Sunday roast that was simmering all day long. There is a super important warning I want to give you about fiber. I see it all the time. A lot of folks will transition to a more plant-based diet, or they'll just start incorporating fiber much more into their diet. They go from eating almost no fiber to, on day one, they're eating giant bowls of beans and broccoli and whole grains. And let's talk about what happens, because I'm sure some of you folks have experienced this. Along with myself, the stomach completely revolts. Painful bloating, gassy, just straight up uncomfortable. But unfortunately, the folks I'm talking about here, you know, they end up saying to themselves, I guess a plant-based diet just isn't for me. So it doesn't agree with my stomach. I quit. It's not the plants, it's fiber shock. I'm very much an analogy nerd, so bear with me. Think of your gut like muscles. If you haven't trained them and you throw 40 grams of fiber at them overnight, it's gonna be like bench pressing 300 pounds on your first day at the gym. When I started, or I should say when I started realizing this, I slowed it down. I no longer was doubling my fiber pretty much overnight. I increased it incrementally over weeks. You know, like a handful of spinach here in this meal, maybe some berries added here to the end of that meal, and your digestive system, that muscle we talked about, it starts to build slow and steady, like the turtle. That's the game you want to play. To close out the day, we're doing a one-pot recipe, a comfort meal, a warm hug. We're starting this recipe no different from any other, using an onion as the base. This time, rather than the onion getting overly soft, we're gonna add just a pinch of salt. This is gonna allow the onion to keep its firmness as it caramelizes in the pot. And once we start seeing those brown bits hanging out at the bottom, we're tossing in our sweet potatoes. I didn't say this before, but you always wanna cube your potatoes uniformly. Unevenly cut potatoes can be the difference in a meal being like 20 minutes long or like 40 minutes long. Next, we're adding in our black beans. You can swap these for kidney beans, pinto beans, if, you know, that's what your pantry has to offer. Black beans in this case though, it does give the stew like this gorgeous, rich, dark color that just feels incredible. This recipe does have sriracha in it, and that's not to say we're looking for any harsh, spicy burn to come from it. Really, it's only added in there for flavor. If you want to swap it out, some similar flavors would be like garlic chili paste or even some harissa. Now it's time to pour in your milk and have everything simmer. Key thing to remember, stews are not soups. They're supposed to be thick. They're supposed to be hearty. I like to use coconut milk pretty often, So if you're allergic or maybe just trying to avoid any sort of coconut flavor, you could use something like oat milk or just another thick plant-based milk. And if you find it feels a little too loose, you could do something like a cornstarch slurry, and that will bring things together pretty good. If you can't tell by now, I love me some sweet potatoes and beans. I don't know what to tell you. But the question is, can you get fiber in other places? Well, yeah, of course, just not on today's menu. Although I'll put up a little screenshot, show you a few other places you can get some fiber in the day. What I want you to take away from this is that at the end of the day, this shouldn't be about, counting numbers or stressing over a chart. It's simply about choosing to treat food as a way to take care of yourself. The full recipe to each of these meals, and they actually all have separate videos too, which you could find right in the description, or you can head right on over to my website, makeitdairyfree.com. You know what? I actually enjoyed this video a lot. Do me a favor, if you could hit the like button, don't forget to subscribe, and thank you so much for being here. I feel like I'm missing something. Believe in good. Peace.